All right, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Let's do this. Had somebody come and asked me when I was in my 20s or 30s what I thought menopause was going to consist of, I would have said, I might get a couple hot flashes because I remember my mom having hot flashes. And then, I might gain a couple pounds. And then sometime in my 50s, my period was going to disappear. And voila, I was going to be in menopause. Oh, did it not go that way? When I was in my early 40s, which is definitely a little earlier than most, I started to go into menopause. And in 6 months, this is what happened. In 6 months. And not just weight gain. I was severely depressed. I had no libido. I was hot flashing all day and night. My skin was itchy. My breasts were inflamed and so sore I could not wear a bra. At this time, I was a very well-known women's weight loss coach. I had it all figured out. Another reason why I didn't think I would have symptoms of menopause. I had been eating a clean, paleo and ketogenic diet for the last 10 years. I had kept that weight for 10 years. I was exercising, I was not drinking, I was taking the supplements, I was intermittent fasting. I was doing everything right. And this happened to me. And I'm so grateful for that. Why? Because I came out of that going, if this could happen to me, somebody who is obsessed with health and nutrition, and women's health in particular, how is it that I did not know this could happen? I thought as long as I was healthy, I was going to sail through this time. And that was not the case. So I came out of that going, we are not being educated. If me, the person that's in this field of work, did not know about this, what about the rest of the world? What about all the other women out there? We are not being properly educated. 25 million women a year pass through menopause, and we are largely being ignored. Menopause is costing American women an estimated $1.8 billion in lost working time per year, according to a Mayo Clinic study last year. How is that possible? This is not hot flashes, people. This is not a little bit of weight gain that is costing our medical system $1.8 billion. And women are quitting their jobs. That's how serious this can get. Women don't quit their jobs because they're having hot flashes. Women are resilient. We are tough frickin' cookies. If we're quitting our jobs or having to take time off work, there's something very serious going on. It's costing our medical system $25 billion a year. Once again, we're not running to our doctors because we're having some hot flashes and because we're gaining a little weight in the belly. It's more than that. Less than 7% of medical students, when surveyed, were taught minimal about menopause, and 0 were taught about perimenopause. And who's affected by this? I just had a very smart woman ask me this morning. She said, I don't want to sound like I'm an idiot. This is a stupid question, but does everybody go through menopause? How does this very smart woman not know that answer to that question? And I said, oh my God, well, you gotta come to the talk. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I mean. This is what I mean. Because every single one of us, no matter what we do or how healthy we are going through perimenopause and menopause, period, end of story. 85%, so that's almost all of us, I would say that number is even higher now, will have outward symptoms. 100% of you will have inward. Because even if you're not getting the hot flashes, the weight gain, and you're like, I don't feel my menopause, this is so great. Like, I don't like those women, but no. We still don't know what's going on the inside. We know, for instance, that we will start losing bone way before we hit menopause. Do you feel that? No. Sorry, I'm not done that. 25% will have severe symptoms. And when I say severe, I know of women that have taken their lives because their symptoms were that bad and they were not getting the help that they needed. That should never, ever happen. Half of the women don't see their GP, but really, why bother? Because less than 7% even know about it. 77% do not realize their symptoms are from hormonal loss. Once again, how is this possible in 2024 that they don't know that this is what's happening to their body? We're educated about fertility, we're educated about puberty, yet we're not being educated about this second half of our life that we're going to spend post-menopausal. So what defines perimenopause? So perimenopause, oh, and I spelt it wrong. That is just, I can't believe, you know how many times I looked at that slide? There's an E there, let's pretend. So typically nowadays, now it's getting earlier and earlier, but typically we're seeing women start to hit perimenopause in their mid to late 30s. Now perimenopause is the gradual loss of hormones until you reach menopause. And this time, the average time is from 38 to 52. That's a long time. And I will tell you right now, perimenopause is much more harsh than menopause. And so we are spending an average of a decade of time losing our hormones. And what defines menopause? Menopause is just one day. One day. And that day is after you have not had a cycle for an entire year. This is just an arbitrary number that I'm going to say probably some man pulled out of his you-know-what. Because there's no point in it whatsoever. And this actually is harming millions of women. Why? Because I can't tell you how many doctors will not treat a woman until she is in menopause. They will refuse proper treatment. If you are a man and you start losing your testosterone, doesn't matter what age you are, you can go to any of these testosterone clinics on every corner and every doctor and, oh, did your testosterone go down a point? Oh my gosh, let me give you some testosterone and let me give you some Viagra. We can't have this happen. But women, we're told that we have to wait it out and that we cannot receive proper treatment until we're in menopause. And like I said before, this could be over a decade of time. This is a typical graph of what we're seeing right now in women when we lose our hormones. We got three main hormones that are being produced in the ovaries: estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. And as you can see here, the progesterone is starting to drop even a little bit before we're 35. Mine started at 32, I started losing my progesterone. And then it takes this wild, like really deep dive, and that's because if we're not ovulating, we're not producing the bulk of our progesterone. And so as many of you know, as women, you know, if you're trying to conceive at 40, you're considered this like geriatric pregnancy, like you're so old. And that's why, because we're not producing as many eggs anymore. And if we're not producing eggs, we're not producing progesterone, the bulk of it. Testosterone's more of a slow decline because we only produce about half out of our ovaries. And then estrogen kind of goes on this wild ride in our late 40s and then kind of peters out into our 50s. So the first to go is progesterone in most women. And like I said before, this is because we start to lose the eggs and we're not ovulating as often anymore. And symptoms of this typically are that your periods start to get heavier. And this is because progesterone counterbalances the growth of estrogen in the uterine lining. And so without progesterone, we don't have this nice buffer. And without it, estrogen can overgrow that uterine lining. Then you get heavier periods. You're going to get more period cramps. Some women will really, they bleed out. They'll come to me and they're like, oh my, I don't know what's happening. I've had my period for 21 days. I'm going through a tampon every 2 minutes. What is happening? And that is the loss of progesterone, typically. The other thing is it counterbalances the growth of estrogen in the breast tissue. So women will say, I'm getting really tender breasts when I never used to. It's really, really important for sleep and for our emotional state. Progesterone acts on what's called the GABA receptors of your brain. Now, you've all probably heard of GABA. You're a bunch of smart cookies in this room. GABA is in a lot of anti-anxiety supplements, sleep supplements. So progesterone acts as this beautiful anti-anxiety and helps to induce sleep. So as it starts to disappear, we start getting insomnia, we can start feeling anxiety when we've never felt it before, maybe in our whole life, or never had a sleep problem, and suddenly you're going, why am I not sleeping, especially in the second half of my cycle? That's progesterone. Because of all that, I mean, you're not probably eating that well if you're not sleeping and you're riddled with anxiety, you could start to gain weight, but also progesterone is thermogenic. It helps to boost your metabolism, helps your thyroid to function better. So as progesterone drops, your weight increases. Sometimes just a little, sometimes a lot. The next is estradiol, and I say estradiol because we have 3 main estrogens. Estradiol is the one that we're mainly producing out of the ovaries. And estradiol, when this goes, let me tell you, estradiol kind of has a bad rap. And it's the most important of our hormones. Shouldn't even be none of these should be called reproductive hormones anymore. They should be termed life hormones because they have way more functions than just giving us a period and helping us to get pregnant. This is when the hot flashes come, and I don't know how many of you have had hot flashes, but it certainly is not a flash, is it? Right? Everyone's going, no. They're horrible. You feel like your entire insides are on fire, and it's not a flash. It's like a simmering in a pan for a very long time. You get very irritable. You're like, and it can happen all night and really disrupt our sleep. Those are night sweats. Who've had night sweats here? Yeah. Oh, those are really, really attractive, aren't they? Okay, you wake up, your sheets are drenched, your pool of sweat in between your chest. Women have told me they've had to get up and actually change their pajamas, change their sheets because they are drenched. And they get embarrassed because their partner is lying beside them and they're like, oh, really sexy, I know. Estradiol is so important for blood sugar. It helps us to process glucose. It helps us to be insulin sensitive. We have estrogen receptors in the hunger centers of our brain. So as we start losing our estradiol, guess what happens? We can't control our eating. It helps us to be leptin sensitive, which is one of our hunger hormones. So it's like you can't shut off. You just can eat and eat and eat. And we wonder why we gain weight in menopause. Everybody thinks estrogen's going to make them gain weight. You hear it all the time. Every woman thinks she's estrogen dominant. You get on Google. Oh, yeah, oh my gosh, I'm estrogen dominant, 100%. And given too much estrogen, especially our environmental estrogens, definitely make us gain weight. But I will tell you right now, the loss of estrogen will make you gain more weight than too much. This is where we see the bulk of weight gain happening. This is what happened to me in that 6 months, is my estrogen tanked very quickly, and that's why I gained almost 20 pounds. With that, up goes the cholesterol. I've looked at thousands and thousands of labs now, and I have the joy of working with very, very healthy women. I attract really healthy women into my practice. And the same thing happens on a weekly basis where we're going through the labs, and here's this woman. I've been doing CrossFit, I intermittent fast, I do a ketogenic diet, I do this, I do that, and she's all proud of herself. And we look at her numbers, and it's like, oh, your LDL has been flagged, your blood sugar's been flagged, and they're just like, what? Why? I've never had a cholesterol problem. Estrogen. When we lose estrogen, our LDL goes up. Brain. It's just as much of a brain issue as it is an ovarian issue. We are rich with estradiol receptors in our brain. So as our estradiol drops, we can get foggy thinking, short-term memory loss. This is when women are sometimes forced to leave their careers because they will say to me, it gives me a shiver, it makes me really sad, that they leave their jobs because they cannot think anymore. I couldn't do my job if I couldn't think anymore. Estradiol helps us to make a very important neurotransmitter called serotonin. And so as we start to lose our estrogen, we can start to lose serotonin, which is known as like an antidepressant neurotransmitter. Death by suicide in women is highest between the ages of 45 and 64. This is when we lose the bulk of our estrogen. Coincidence? I don't know. Doesn't say anywhere in the research, but that makes me a little bit suspicious, and I'm sure it has something to do with it. We need estrogen for collagen production and for lubrication of our joints, for our skin to be nice and supple and soft. So as you start to lose estradiol, you can get sore joint pain. You can start to, suddenly all the wrinkles are popping out. You're getting the neck skin. You know what I'm talking about, ladies, that neck skin. You're like, what just happened to my neck? Estradiol loss. 53% of women will have vaginal atrophy. Half of us will have vaginal atrophy. That's not fair. I've had women come to me in tears saying, Karen, I haven't had sex with my husband in 2 years because the last time we had sex, the inside of my vagina tore. The skin gets so thin that if you dare to have sex without a boatload of lubrication, you can tear the skin. I've had women say to me, Karen, the door is closed. Literally, nothing's getting in, like done, because it can actually atrophy and shut down, so nothing can get in. This should never happen to a woman because there are solutions for this. More than half of us will have urinary tract infections. This is because estrogen is both important for the lubrication as well as for a healthy urinary tract. And if you've ever had a urinary infection, oh, those are so fun. Estrogen, not only because our vaginas are shutting down and we're tearing in there, we probably don't want to have sex, but even if it wasn't, estradiol is actually really important for our libido. It makes us want to go out and have sex. It's there for a reason, to procreate. And so women will start to lose their libido when they lose their estrogen. And once again, the weight gain. This is where we see the bulk of weight gain happening in women in midlife because of the loss of estradiol for all the things that we just talked about. Now, testosterone we think of as the man's hormone, and I think we're being a little bit more educated about this. Maybe I just see it because this is what I do, so when I go into Instagram, I'm seeing all these people talk about testosterone, but in our fertile years, we produce more testosterone than we do estradiol or progesterone. It's our highest hormone. So we need testosterone. It's not just a man's hormone. Really important for libido, which is usually what it's tied to. Really important for energy as well. Without testosterone, women can start to feel depressed. Women have even been diagnosed with things like chronic fatigue syndrome because they feel so down, they're so tired, and it's actually a loss of testosterone. Not always, I'm just saying it can happen. I've heard of this happening. Testosterone is super important for building muscle, of course. And without it, without our muscle, guess what? Our metabolism starts to get harmed again. Oh, we're so lucky. All these things coming at us to make us gain weight. Now here we are at a biohacking conference. So everybody wants to know, how do I hack this menopause and perimenopause? Well, let me tell you, you cannot run, you cannot cold plunge, you cannot diet, you cannot supplement, you cannot take a peptide, and you cannot intermittent fast your way out of ovarian loss. Every single one of you will go through this, and every single one of you will be affected in some way, shape, or form. None of this will bring it back. Not to say that it can't help. This is those things all foundational, and yes, they will help many other aspects of this journey. I want you to eat well, I want you to exercise, I want you to intermittent fast. But what I don't want is I don't want the women that are doing everything right and putting so much time and effort into their health to think it's their fault or they're not doing enough because they're suffering with symptoms. Because it doesn't matter. You could be the healthiest person on earth, and it's luck of the draw. Some of you will simply suffer more than others. Yes, if you're unhealthy and you're not taking care of yourself, for sure you're going to have probably a worse time during midlife. But women are horrible for beating themselves up about this. It's like, what am I not doing enough of? I'm being told I'm not fasting enough. I'm being told I need to eat more protein. I'm being told I need just stress reduction and then I won't have symptoms of menopause. That's bullshit. It is. Thank you. So yes, I want you to have all of those things. I'm a big proponent of all the things. I do them myself. I practice what I preach. But the only way to hack your hormones in menopause is to replace your hormones with bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. So why don't we do this? Women think that HRT, hormone replacement therapy, is dangerous. They've been told by their medical professionals it's dangerous. They've been told it's going to give them breast cancer. I can't tell, on a weekly basis, somebody will come into our clinic, it's not come in, it's like come online, I should say, and say, oh, my doctor said I can't do estrogen because it's going to give me breast cancer. Women think they're weak, especially the healthy women that are in this space. They think they're weak if they do that. They think they are supporting big pharma if they dare to take hormone replacement therapy. They think it's unnatural. Well, menopause is natural, isn't it? Yeah, well, aging is natural too. Dying is natural. So where does this fear come from? Because back in the 1950s was when we first saw HRT come on the scene. And that was derived from pregnant horses' urine. So as you can imagine, our estrogen is not like a horse's estrogen. But guess what? It worked. And it worked really, really well for getting rid of menopausal symptoms. It worked so well that by 1992, it was the #1 most prescribed medication in America. #1 out of all medications. So you can imagine how many women were on it, how many doctors were handing this prescription out, that by 1997, sales exceeded $1 billion. 20 million women at this time around the world were on some form of HRT. That in the early 90s, a group of scientists decided, you know what? we are going to prove to the world that HRT is fantastic and it can lower the risk of cardiovascular disease. So on started this great big study called the Women's Health Initiative. 160,000 women were brought in for this research study to prove that it's such a great thing, and this is why it's number one. There's two arms of the study that took HRT. One arm of the study took just the Premarin, the horse's urine estrogen, and the other arm of the study, the Premarin arm of the study, the reason they only gave them Premarin was because the women had had a hysterectomy. So the belief then was, well, a woman doesn't need any sort of progesterone, because remember I said at the beginning, progesterone counterbalances the growth of estrogen in the uterine lining. So those women, they were just given Premarin because they're like, oh, they don't need progesterone, which is another false thing. The other arm had their uterus intact, so they gave them Premarin with a fake synthetic chemical progestin that acted like progesterone, and it was called medroxyprogesterone acetate. 5 years after the study began, the WHO halted the study and published an article in the JAMA that said, basically, it didn't say, oh my gosh, but I like to say that. Oh my gosh, we're wrong. Get every woman off HRT because HRT is going to increase their risk of breast cancer, heart attack, and stroke. That went out to the world like wildfire, and every doctor pulled their patients off of the HRT, and we have not recovered since then. Here's what really happened. The arm of this study that had Premarin and medroxyprogesterone acetate did have an increase in breast cancer, cardiac events, and stroke. The Premarin only, the freaking horse's estrogen. Guess what? Breast cancer was reduced by 24%. 24%. Who heard that back then? Any of you? No. We have some older women in here, I see. Did you hear that back in the 90s? That, oh my gosh, estrogen replacement therapy reduces our risk of breast cancer. No, all we hear is estrogen replacement therapy is going to increase our risk of breast cancer. In a 19-year WHI follow-up, from the exact same people that held this study and also published that article in JAMA, the same people came out and said, estrogens are breast protective against breast cancer, and this protection can last up to 2 decades. Did any of you know that? That's shocking. Why don't we know that? We're all about breast cancer, wear the ribbon, do the run. How about replace your estrogen? Synthetic progestins, the same people say this, synthetic progestins promote breast cancer slightly but significantly. Guess where progestins are? Birth control pills. So here we are, the exact same doctor that says, I will not treat you until you're in menopause, is gladly handing out progestins to your 13-year-old for her acne. They're handing them out to menopausal women and perimenopausal women saying, oh, you could take this, sure. Take it for as long as you need. It's safe. The Mirena is medroxyprogesterone acetate. 30%, this was the arm of the study that had the the Premarin. They had a 30% reduction in all causes of death. They had 12 to 52% reduction in heart disease, and they had a 30% reduction in hip fractures. We didn't hear about that either. Because guess what? None of us heard about it ever around the world during that time because HRT dropped by 70% after that study came out. And we've not recovered. Where we are today, in 2024, when you go to your doctor and you ask for hormones, no HRT for you. Imagine if a doctor said that. No. Instead, What are women typically being offered? A hysterectomy. It is the second most performed surgery in the United States, second to cesarean, which that's a problem too. Or birth control. I can't tell you how many women I know offered birth control for menopausal symptoms. I had a woman come to me the other day, she's 51 years old, she's a friend of mine. And she said, Karen, I've been bleeding every single day for 3 years. I have been to several gynecologists. I went to a nurse practitioner. I went to my primary physician. They have all told me the same thing, that I cannot start hormones until I'm in menopause. And guess what they gave her instead? Progestin, medroxyprogesterone acetate implant in her arm instead. It makes me so mad. And let's just pause here for a second. Could you imagine if this was a man's problem? Sorry, guys, but imagine a 45-year-old man going to his doctor and being like, Doc, like my penis is not working anymore. It's dry. It's wrinkling. If I dare to have sex, if I can even get it up, I have micro tears of the skin. I'm getting fat. I'm having this leakage coming out that just doesn't seem to stop. I'm having bladder infections. I can't sleep at night. Like, what am I supposed to do? Could you imagine if the doctor was like, oh, you know what, Bob? You're done having kids, right? So why don't we let's just get rid of your testicles. That'll solve everything. Or, you know, it's natural. This is natural. It's part of life. Just use some lubrication. I could give you an antidepressant. Oh, I could give you a pill that may increase your risk of prostate cancer. It's going to make you depressed. It's going to make you gain more weight. But it'll at least get rid of the leakage. And then, you know, once you're 55, Bob, then maybe I'll give you some testosterone, because to be honest, if I gave you testosterone, that would get rid of everything. Is that not, like, that's really freaky when you think about it like that. That's not fair. So now we don't have to take horses' urine, even though it worked really, really well. We now have bioidentical hormones. Now, what does bioidentical mean? It means it's the exact same makeup as our own hormones. And where does that come from? We get it from Mother Earth. Mother Earth, in all her infinite wisdom, created two plants, the yam and the soy, that we can extract a natural compound out of to make hormones that look identical to our own, unlike the horses. And the research, it's phenomenal. Estradiol HRT has been shown to inhibit the storage of visceral fat. Hello? That's really exciting. You saw what my stomach looked like. It increases leptin and insulin sensitivity. It activates AMPK, which enhances the use of fat for fuel. We want this, right? Relaxes the arteries and promotes good cholesterol. 70 to 90% lower risk of death in women with coronary artery disease, women that replace their estrogen. That's how important it is for your heart health. And that's the #1 killer of women. Alzheimer's and dementia. There was an amazing study done at the University of Arizona in the early 2020s, like 2021, 400,000 women. And it showed that women that replaced their estradiol for 6 years or longer had a 79% reduction in developing Alzheimer's and dementia. Did we hear about that? No, we did not. That's a disease that we're all being told we can't avoid, there's nothing we can do about it, there's no medication for it, and it's on the rise for women. Women that replaced their estrogen outperformed women not on HRT in cognition, verbal vocabulary, and memory. So these women were probably able to keep their jobs. I love this one. This is a new one that I just found out about. In this study, they had women on none, 1 milligram, or 2 milligrams of estradiol a day. And the women on 2 milligrams, the hippocampal gray matter volume increased in their brain. So it volumized a part of their brain. And the women on 1 milligram or 0 did not get that effect. And when they stopped the 2 milligrams, these effects reversed and the brain went back down. So it's actually volumizing parts of our brain. For our skin, both internal estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, all really good for our skin health. Estrogen in particular, though, fantastic. Whether you put it on topically or you're taking it internally, there was one study done where women were using estradiol and estriol topically on their face for 6 months. The results, they had an increase in collagen production, a reduction in pore size by 60 to 100%, wrinkle depth decreased, elasticity and firmness increased, and skin moisture improved. And I am a testament to that. That's my own cream, too. I made it. I was like, oh, women need to have this. This is like the best anti-aging cream you could put on your face. Women with vaginal dryness, UTIs, and or atrophy all saw drastic improvements up to 83% when estradiol was used locally in the vagina. So all those poor women with that were being clearly ignored by their doctors, that didn't have to happen. This is really successful treatment. I would much rather use this than KY jelly. I don't know about you guys. We saw a 30% reduction in cancers when women used HRT. Do you know of any supplement, any biohack that can do this? Or this? A pooled statistical analysis of 30 clinical trials found that women who began hormone replacement therapy before age 60 had a 39% lower risk of death than women who didn't take hormones. Do you know of any biohack that can reduce your risk that much? There isn't one. Aging is an extraordinary process when you become the person you were always meant to be. David Bowie. Well, David, thank you for that. However, we are not being educated about this time in our life, are we? And then because of that, these are not extraordinary years. Did I look like I was having an extraordinary time in that picture? 20 pounds overweight, can't get off my couch, sorry, but no. But the truth of the matter is, these can be the most extraordinary days of your life. I love aging now. I was able to reverse all of those symptoms. I'm now 48. I still somewhat have a period, so I get them not in menopause yet. Even though it's like a period every 3 months, but okay. I can't wait to get to 50. I feel amazing. I feel way better than I did at 42. The second half of our life can be the best time of our life. This is when women really get to know who they are. We get to live for ourselves. The kids have grown up. We've kind of chosen the partner that we might actually stick with. We've got the career down. It's like, okay, this is the career I'm going to stick with till I retire. Now it's time for, what do I want? We take our whole lives taking care of everybody around us. Now it's my turn. But if you're on your couch, 20 pounds overweight, hot flashing, not sleeping, feeling horrible, even if you're just getting a couple of those symptoms, even just on the inside, if your body is starting to, You know, your liver's starting to get affected, your brain's getting affected, your bones are getting affected. This does not equal extraordinary. And I want all of you, if you choose, to have an extraordinary life. And so educate yourselves. It's time that we took back the power, because right now, we don't have the power in this situation. We are not being helped, and we have to spread the word. It just shocks me how many people do not know about this and what their options are, what their safe options are. Now, hormone replacement therapy might not be for everybody. There is a small subset of women that can't do hormones, but there's still so many other things that we can do to help you. So don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Thank you. Oh, questions. Oh, yay. I've got 7 minutes for questions, and then he's shutting me down. Okay, she's got a good one.
I am the woman who cannot take safely the hormones. They didn't work for me, and the side effects outweigh the benefits. So what are the options that can work for the vaginal atrophy? I've tried everything.
In our clinic, I would have to safely say, I'm looking at my partner here, Beth. Beth, you can give everybody a wave. She's my nurse practitioner who does the hormone replacement therapy with me. I don't think we have had a client yet who we couldn't find something that worked. We've had many, countless women say, I've tried it, I've tried everything, it didn't work, I had horrible side effects. We have typically, would you not agree, Beth, that we have been able to find something that works? Each one of you is an individual, and there's many ways you can take hormone replacement therapy. There's many different kinds, there's many different delivery forms, different dosages. I just talked to somebody the other night who's like, I was put on the Wiley protocol, which is this like really high-dosed HRT therapy, and she's like, I was losing my mind, I couldn't get out of bed, I was getting dizzy, and I was like, you're a sensitive person. There's some of us that are super sensitive that just need this little tiny baby dose, and you just can't get higher than that, or maybe you need to take a really tiny dose for a period of time and then very slowly increase as your body adjusts and you wake up those receptors. The older you are, the more those receptors are going to be like, okay, well, there's no estrogen around, I guess I'm going to just go to bed.
Why do they say over 60 you shouldn't be on it?
That's old information that is based on using Premarin. Because what they said, Premarin was taken orally, and anytime you take estrogen orally, you are going to increase your risk of heart attack and stroke. All the research showed that women on Premarin, they had a 10-year window before they started to see that being affected. And so now it's kind of out there like, oh, past your 10-year window, forget it, you're a lost cause. That's not true. We work with a lot of women. I put my mom on estrogen when she was like 69. And she was like, oh, yeah, like she lost half her belly weight, her brain came back online. She was so grateful because she had always thought, oh, I'm going to get breast cancer if I start this. And it's just how you do it. And you want to work with somebody that sees you as an individual, which a lot of practitioners don't. Are you getting emotional? Yeah, that's okay. Oh, don't get me emotional too. There's help. You can get help, I promise. Yep.
My doctor gladly gave me estradiol, but he won't give me progesterone. So I went back and so she gave me a prescription, which is wonderful, but I have to pay for it out of pocket. It is not cheap. So I went back, and she's like, nope, get out of my office. What do we say to those people?
You say, I'm going to go get a new doctor.
It's Kaiser.
Okay. I want you to go to KarenMartel.com, and I want you to go into my shop. I have a beautiful chemical-free progesterone cream that will last you 3 months for $50.
Thank you.
You're welcome. No prescription needed. Just for you. Yep. Oh, for everybody. Yes.
Do you measure hormones before you start therapy?
Yes, we do. We do blood work. If somebody can afford it, we do like women to also at some point do what's called a urine metabolite test because we like to see how your body is processing those hormones. That's the Dutch test. I have lots. Typically, we see the Dutch test telling us so much more information that the two together, blood work and urine, seem to be the best match. Saliva can overshow progesterone hormone replacement therapy, and then blood will undershow it. So we just have found, like over the last several years, that this is what we see work best so that we can see how a woman's metabolizing. Saliva doesn't tell you how you metabolize, right? There's more toxic pathways than others, and some women, they start HRT, like this woman over here, and have all of these horrible symptoms, and sometimes that's because of how she's breaking them down. We know there's something called progesterone sensitivity, which no freaking doctor is recognizing. And that's from oral progesterone, which is the bulk of what people are prescribing. And some people are really sensitive to those GABA receptors, and it makes them severely depressed. And doctors are like, oh, just take more, just get through it, when they're like suicidal, some of them. It's terrible. So that's what we do.
Will insurance usually pay for that?
If you've got good insurance, yes. If, like, we offer all the testing, it's $250 for the whole panel. But if somebody's got insurance, we always encourage you, of course. We will do everything we can to get things covered under insurance, from the drugs to the, and then we've got our own line of over-the-counter stuff that if people can't afford it, they don't have insurance, we'll still work with you and we'll figure it out. Yep, yep.
It's kind of two questions. Do you recommend taking the replacement, whatever the initials were, I forget, HRT, even if you are pre-perimenopause?
Yes.
And also, do you recommend it every day of the month, or are you supposed to skip the day that you are on your cycle?
Okay, so that's a little different for each person depending on where you're at, because remember, perimenopause can be 10 years. And yes, a lot of doctors, like I said, won't give you HRT until you're in menopause, which the perimenopausal years are sometimes the worst years, and it's a decade. So why are we like, oh, no, can't give you hormones. Hormones, hello, I've had these hormones my entire fertile life, and suddenly they're so dangerous, we can't give them to you until you have none. Once again, would we do this to a man? We don't. That is so unfair. We need to catch it as early as possible because each woman has different symptoms. Like I was 42 and getting those symptoms. So imagine if some doctor was like, no, I'm not helping you until you're in menopause. That would have been terrible. I would have had to suffer for over a decade. So no, we want to catch it early and then you'll have a lot less symptoms and a lot less health problems. Yeah.
What's the best time during the cycle to test each one?
Day 21. Yeah. If you have a 28-day cycle, 7 days before your period usually comes.
So did I hear you say that you don't recommend oral progesterone?
No, oral progesterone is the most common form of bioidentical progesterone that is prescribed. Don't take oral progestins, or birth control for menopausal symptoms. You've got better options. Don't take estrogen orally. It has a whole slew of different problems. It converts to a really inflammatory estrogen called estrone. It raises something called sex hormone binding globulin. It'll affect your thyroid. It'll increase your risk of heart attack and stroke. So we don't need to, even though it's prescribed still quite often. We have better options.
I'm in Canada.
Okay,
So
me too.
yes, I know. I follow the podcast all the time. Could we still contact you for assessments, but we can't get your products?
We can't get my products yet. It's in the process. I can do it. It's just like, oh, there's a duty fee, and then there's this, and I'm like, are people going to want to pay for this? So I'm still looking at it. Right now, we can prescribe in every state in the United States with our telemedicine clinic, and British Columbia and Alberta. So if any of you are looking to get help, we have multiple different tiers, and you're getting shut down here, so we better shut her down, folks. If you have questions, you can meet me outside. Thank you.